Hello everyone, it's Carbs here, and today we're going to talk about Carbs Toolbar. So this is version 4.0, but it's actually the first time that I've made the video, so we're going to go ahead and cover everything. If you've not heard of Carbs Toolbar before, it's a toolbar that's full of small features for Aseprite. It's kind of like a grab bag of features, really. We're going to go over all the additional features this tool adds in this video. We have everything ranging from grid from selection to shifting palette colors, all the way to a handy set of export features. If you're short on time and would like to quickly see what this tool has to offer, check out the trailer video down in the description. That announcement video lists off all the features within a few minutes if you're interested. This video will be a bit longer as we're going to be diving into all the features in Carbs Toolbar, exploring its features in depth and showing small examples on how to use the tool. Okay, let's get started. So if you're coming from a previous version of Carbs Toolbar, then this section is for you. I'm going to quickly show you how to remove the old version, the script version, and install the latest and newest 4.0 release. If this is your first time installing Carbs Toolbar, you can go ahead and skip this section and move to the install process. To make sure the tool doesn't get confused with the old functions, we need to remove the old script version of Carbs Toolbar. We can do this by simply going up to File, down here to Scripts, and then Open Scripts folder. From here, we can find the Carbs Toolbar folder, and we can go ahead and delete it. Note that any of the hotkeys set in the old version will need to be reset, as the format of the plugin has changed quite drastically. We'll go into why this is, but trust me, it's a huge improvement, and it's well worth the update. Okay, so now that we have that removed, we're all set, and we're ready to install the new version. Once you have Carbs Toolbar downloaded, it'll look like this, a single Aseprite extension file. Installing and updating from here going forward is going to be much easier. So we'll go ahead, we'll open up Aseprite, and then we can go ahead and install the extension by simply double clicking on it. This will be the same procedure when you go to upgrade, when 4.1 comes out, etc. This will be the exact same process. So you'll just have to download it and then double click it. Alternatively, you can also drag and drop the extension file into Aseprite as well. Or you can access the extensions under Edit, Preferences, and then down here underneath Plugins. So now that we have that installed, we're all good to go. To open up the toolbar, it's located up here underneath the View menu. Click Open Carbs Toolbar. Let's start with the grid options. So we can set the blue grid here by just making a selection and hitting Set Grid. We can also offset it as well. So if I do something like this, you'll see that the grid is actually offset. If I undo this, we can also do this with a checkerboard as well. So I can go ahead, make a selection, and hit Set Checkerboard. You'll notice that the checkerboard does not offset though. So kind of just, it's always at 0, 0. So there's that. This third one here is Set Grid and Checkerboard to 16. So this basically will just bring it back to the default, just like that. There we go. So those are the first three options here. And before we get into the isometric, I'm actually going to show you guys how to set the hotkeys. So you can use any of these functions, as well as any of the functions at all in Carbs Toolbar. They're all hotkeyable. So yeah, let me show you guys how to get into there. So it's going to be up here under Edit and then Keyboard Shortcuts. And if we look for Carbs Toolbar, you'll notice we have a whole bunch of hotkeys that we can set. And that's because every single thing is hotkeyable. So right here, I've got Set Grid and Set Checkerboard. I've set it to Shift Space G and Shift Space C. We can set these. So if you don't know, you can just set these by clicking on it and hit Add. So I can do Control Shift G or Space Shift G. That's it. And then now, whenever we do the highlight and I hit the hotkey, you'll see that the grid is set depending on our selection. And then likewise, if I do the checkerboard, you see that we get the different checkerboard here. depending on our selection. So that's pretty cool. You'll also notice down here in the right-hand corner, there's a little pop-up that comes up. So if I go ahead and do the grid again, you'll see that it says that set the grid offset and it set the grid size. So that's just to tell you that there's a little information there. Let's just give a little feedback. If you don't want those, you can turn them off right here. And it doesn't show up. I think they're pretty helpful though, so I usually just leave them on. And the reason why I added the tooltips was because now in Carbs Toolbar 4.0, you can actually run all of the functions without the tool being open. So for instance, if I close the tool now, you'll notice that we're still able to hit our hotkey and do the grid function. And the tooltips will always show up when you don't have the tool open, just to give you that little bit of feedback that you've done something. Okay, so let's explore the rest of the grid options here. So we've got this create isometric grid layer. So this lets us pick a couple colors. So maybe I'll pick like this red and maybe this lighter red here. And then what we can do is we can hit the 2-1, and this will make a isometric grid with a 2 pixel gap at the bottom. And you see that this made this on a new layer. Likewise, if I undo this, we do the 3-1, you'll see that we have a 3 pixel gap at the very bottom. And again, 4-1, same thing, a 4 gap at the bottom there. So it's just a matter of what perspective you really want. These are kind of the most common, the 2, the 3, and the 4. We can also adjust these colors to the same color if we want. So let's say if we want them both to be this red color here, you see that the colors are the same. And actually I didn't say, but the first color is the outside. So if I make this like a white and then I make this like a blue, you'll notice that whoops, I had a selection. You'll notice that the outside is white and then the inside is blue. So outside and inside. And then you can also, you can just set this to no color. So we could set this to a mask if we want. So if I do something like this, and we'll undo that, you'll see that we don't actually get the center. So if you're just looking for the grid like this, you can do that as well. So a lot of different options. And yeah, I think it's super handy. Okay. So let's move to the next section here. So a couple different ways that we can move to the next section, which is going to be Sprite options. There's a little drop down right here. So we can go to Sprite options, and that'll change to all of our Sprite options. The other way that we can do it is we can navigate with these little buttons up here. So 1 was grid options, and then we can go to 2, which is Sprite options. So you see there's a whole bunch of different tabs here. As well as the tabs up here. So once you kind of use it enough, you kind of start to remember which tab is which. But I have the drop down here just in case, you know, you want to do that instead. So the first one here in the Sprite options is Shrinkwrap selection. So what this does is it will take a selection and it'll make a tightly wrapped selection around the sprite. So for instance, if I select this orange blob here and I hit shrink wrap, you'll see that it makes a very tight selection around the orange blob. So that's very specific to the orange blob. Now, if I do something like this and we'll select all 4 of these and hit shrink wrap, you'll see that we get all 4 of these and it cuts out the middle of it. So we only get the actual area there. Now you can still do this with if you cut this off like this, what'll happen is you'll get the top half of it, which is kind of nice. So maybe you just need to select the top of it. You can do that. Again, remember all of these are hotkeyable, so you could set a hotkey for shrink wrap to make things a little bit easier, and then just be able to select things really quickly like that. But yeah, that's up to you. Okay, so the next one I have here is crop and center selection. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but it fixes a very small issue that I have with when you crop things in Aseprite. So for instance, if I move my canvas around, let's say it's like over here, and I select this this guy here. If we come up here to Sprite and go to Crop, you'll notice that the sprite is not centered up in the middle of the view. We kind of want it like here. So Crop and Center does exactly that. So no matter where this is in the view, when you go ahead and crop this, this will center it up to the middle of the view. Again, very small thing, but I think it's nice. And again, you can hotkey it. So instead of having to crop and then move it around and all that, you can just kind of hit the one key and bing, bam, done, right? So yeah, it's kind of cool. And again, it's such a small thing. It's like, you know, whatever. But yeah, it's cool. So for this next one, create frames from selection. I'm going to go ahead and load up some sprites from ClockworkRaven. Really cool character sprites, and we'll be able to grab a bunch of them off of the sheet and then spit them out as frames. So let me get that loaded real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, cool. So I've got the characters loaded up here, and let's just go ahead and select this character, for instance. So we've gone ahead and selected all of these, and I'll hit create frames from selection. And you see that we have all of those frames exported into a selection of frames now. Very nice, very easy. This is basically like the import sprite sheet, but we're only importing a certain section of this. For instance, if we wanted to just import these three here, we can do that, and then we'll have those three frames, which is quite nice. It's just a nice little thing. I keep saying it's nice. It is nice though. When I originally made this, I had sort of just a single column in mind. So basically being able to just select this or select something like this, but it looks like it actually does work with multiple rows. The only caveat is what'll happen is if you have multiple rows selected like this, it's going to go all the way across horizontally, and then it's going to come back around and then do this row. So you'll notice that we get these three characters, these three, these three, these three, and then back around to the first character. So you see here, we got the three, the three, the three, the three, and then we come back around. So just keep that in mind when you're doing the selection. It is going to go horizontal, and then it'll skip down to the next line vertically. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so this next one is actually a built-in feature of Aseprite, but I use it often enough, so I ended up just making a button for it. So we can make a selection. I just double-click there to get the grid bounce. But we can make a selection, and then we can hit create new sprite. And this will just extract the one frame into a new sprite. I hope to add some stuff to this in the future, like currently I think this just does the single layer, but it would be nice to have it where it like compresses all the layers down and then has the sprite in that functionality. But for now it just does basically the same thing as if you do edit new sprite from selection. So but yeah, I just thought it was nice, and I use it enough to where I have the tool up and I'm clicking the button. So yeah. All right, moving on to selection sprite sheet. Let me close this. And we're going to need something with some animation. So let me actually open up, let's see, maybe Lesma's stream avatars is probably a pretty good example. Or you know what? Let me grab my Chocobo. I'm going to grab the Chocobo image instead. Okay, so I've got an animation here that just has the idle walk and some different things here. This is one of our stream avatars. And so we've got our Chocobo here, and we're going to use this selection sprite sheet. So what we'll do here is I'll just make a selection, and then I'll hit selection sprite sheet. And what this does is it will create a sprite sheet using only the bounds of the selection. So you see that we have each of the tags in horizontal rows, and it's only the part that we selected. Actually, it looks like we do need some, I'll show active layer after, I guess, because I don't have another layer here. But active tag will only do the single tag, and it'll make like a horizontal strip of the one tag. So for instance, if we do the walk, if I go there, active tag only, selection sprite sheet. Oh, let's make a selection. There we go. So now you see that we get the selection, and then it is the walking tag here. And then actually, you know what? Let's just make a new layer real quick. I'm going to fill this in with just some stuff so you guys can see. But yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, so I just made some marking here. I just made the idle animation. It just has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on a separate layer. So now if we do, well, we can do active tag and active layer. And if I click on layer 1, it'll just do that. So let's make our selection again. So I'll do like this. And then you'll notice that we get the selection, but it's only that one layer. Likewise, if I went to the chocobo layer, we'll only get the chocobo and not the numbers. Next up, the Resize Sprite selection. I'm going to load a file real quick here. Let me grab that. Okay, so I have the file loaded here. It is the Jumpy Carbs. The 8-bit val made me. So it's like a little animated emote, but just a single frame. So yeah, Resize Sprite selection. So what we'll do is on the heart layer here. So it just have the little heart that's separated from his shirt. And I'm going to grab this. And then I'm going to resize this 2x. So you see that we get a 2x or 200% version of that same heart. Maybe we can put it in his hand. If I undo that, we can also do 4x. So we get an even bigger image here. Likewise, we can do half size, and then we can do quarter size as well. So it's very, very tiny. But also what we can do is we can keep the original as well. So if I click on keep original and we do 2x, you'll notice that the original stays there, and then we have this one that is a bigger size. So what's kind of neat about that is we can then just make another selection, do another one, and here you go, up here. Almost like this, maybe make a 4. So we could do a bunch of them. So there we go. I'll just undo that. So that's resize selection. Handy little helpful thing. Okay. Now on to export selection. So this feature lets you export the current selection and save it to the current documents folder. You'll need to at least save your file once. That way it knows where that folder is before you can export. But after that, you're totally fine. So what we can do, I'm going to open up this guy here. Which is one of our, we did a little thing for Pixel Encore, which is a thing that Not puts on. And what we'll do is we'll create a selection. Oh, whoops. First, let's get to the third tab, which is Sprite Export Options. Again, you can get to those in here as well. So now I'll make a selection, and we'll do Export Visible Selection. Now, we can get to the folder real quick by right-clicking on the tab and going Open in Folder. And this will open up the folder that has the Aseprite file in it. So you see we have the Pixel Encore 21 selection. The next option we have is only active layer. So if this is checked, it'll only export the current layer. So for instance, if we are on the catapult, let's say, and we do only active layer, export selection, you'll see that in the folder, we have just the catapult inside the selection. So this is kind of cool. Okay, so the next one here that we have is the export visible layers. So with this one, you can export all of the visible layers to the current documents folder again as separate PNGs. So if we do that, we'll hit this and it takes a second and then we can go take a look. So this one goes into this folder, layer export. And then you see each of the layers is a separate PNG image. So we've got the text, we've got the shadows, we've got the mushroom, we got the background, all these different layers here. And we also have, if there's a group, so right here, fire is a group with 3 different things in it. So if we go in there, you'll see that we have the fire layers in a separate folder. We can also export this with Shrinkwrap on. And what this will do is this will make it so that it reduces down the outside space around the layers to only include the smallest area. So if I turn that on and we do the same export, we'll come in here, we'll go in layer export, and you'll notice that it's kind of hard to see here, but the layers are actually only as big as there are pixels. So you see how each one is a little bit different. So it all depends on what you need to export. If you want to export just the size of it, or if you want to export the whole thing to make sure everything stays in line, it's really up to you. And that's just a good option to have. Okay, so let's move to the next one here, which is going to be slice options. And this one's quite the doozy. This one's got a lot of different options. So this might be a bit of a longer section. We might break this up into 3 different sections down in the chapters. But yeah, I guess we'll see. So with Carbs Toolbar, you can use the regular selection rectangle to make a new slice. So if we went ahead and selected this section here of Lesma's character, just with the regular selection tool, we can now slice selection, and that will go ahead and create a selection. It does take in the color of the box up here. So for instance, if we wanted to slice this side and maybe go in like an orange color, we can slice that as well. So you see we have an orange slice here now as well. All right, so let's get down into these export functions. We're going to do these one at a time. So I'm going to explain all of the PNG exports. Then we'll get into Spritesheet, and then we'll get into Gifs afterwards, because they are kind of complicated, and a lot of these options can mix together. So there's going to be quite a bit of different options here that we can explore. I will say before we even get started, the slices can be selected in 2 different ways. So we can use the slice tool to select which slices we want to export. We can also select them both with the slice tool, and that will export both of these slices. Or with Carbs Toolbar, you can also select with the regular rectangle tool. So if I have the rectangle tool out, anything that's inside, any slices that are inside of this selection, so both of these are now inside here, at least a little bit, will be considered ones that you want to export. So if I just want to select this one really quick, I can do that. Or if I want to select this one really quick, I can just do that. And it will export just the one that we have selected, or both. Okay, so starting up, we're going to do the PNG. So by default, with no options selected, the PNG will export all frames as individual PNG files. The frame number will be included with this, and it'll be the local frame number. For instance, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for idle. And then walk will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in walk. Sit will have 1, and jump will have 1. So I'll do that now. Let's export the slices. And we'll go ahead and open the folder. Okay. So you can see that all of the animations got exported with the different tags here. So idle goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have jump that just has 1. Sit just has 1 as well. And then walk goes 1 through 8. And then we do the other slice that has idle. And it does all the rest of the frames. So you'll notice that the export here, if I zoom it in a little bit, the naming scheme for this is going to be the name of the file. So it's stream avatar base, the name of the slice, which is slice 1, the name of the tag, which is idle, and then the relative frame or the local frame in the tag, which is going to be 1, and that's a PNG. So likewise, if we scroll down here, you'll see that when we get to the second slice, these ones here, so stream avatar base, slice, idle, 3.png. It's basically just the sprite, the slice, the tag, and then the local tag frame number. If there are any frames that don't have any tags above it, so all of these blank ones here, what'll happen is, like for instance on this one here, if I was to draw in here, right? So 7 doesn't have a tag. What'll happen is when that gets exported, the tag will be missing. So it just won't have a tag. So you see that it just has the sprite, the slice, and then the frame. And this is going to be the absolute frame number because it doesn't have a tag. It won't start at 1, for instance. So this is actually going to be on 7, which is the frame that it is. So just something to note there. Okay, so if we check the button here that says single frame, we'll go ahead and toggle that on. So what this will do is it does exactly what it sounds like. It will just export the individual frame that you are on. For instance, if I go to walk, which is frame 9, this will export these 2 slices on this frame, and the output for that is going to look a little something like this. So we've got the sprite, the slice, the tag, and then the local tag frame number, which is going to be 1. So it's the first frame of walk. Likewise, we have the sprite, the slice, so this is the second one, walk, and then also frame 1. So you see that's the first frame of walk. Okay, so we use absolute frame numbers instead. So let's turn off single frame for a second. And if we use absolute frame numbers, what this will do is this will use the timeline frame numbers. So this will be, for instance, walk. Instead of being first frame of walk, it'll actually be 9. So let me export that just so you can see. Okay, so if we go down to walk, you'll see that it starts at 9 right here. So we've got sit at 17, we've got walk at 9. So this uses the absolute numbers, which are the numbers above here, the frame numbers. So instead of using the local frame number like it was before, like with walk 1, it's 9, which is going to be the timeline numbers. So that's what happens when you use absolute frame numbers. Okay, so if we combined absolute frame numbers as well as single frame, what we'll get is just the single frame. For instance, walk. We'll get walk 9 because it's the 9th frame absolute, right? Or timeline frame. I'm not sure what to call it, but it is the 9th frame, and it's going to be in the walk tag. So if we do that, export this, you'll see that we get sprite, slice, tag, and then the absolute frame number, or the timeline frame number, .png for both of the 2 slices. Okay, so let's turn these off. And the next option here is only current tag. So this works for both PNG and for the Spritesheet, but we're just going to deal with PNG right now. We'll select that, and what this will do is this will just export any of the frames here in the current tag, as long as we have a tag overhead. So if I select, any of these frames here, that would be underneath the walk tag. So this frame does have a tag, which means it will export with the tag. So I'll go ahead and export that and we'll see what we get. So you see that we get all of our walk frames for both slices, right? Because there's 2 slices. And then we get all of the local frame numbers. So 1 through 8. And if the current frame doesn't have a tag over it, all frames will be exported instead. So you see we get all frames with each of the tags still 1, 2, 3, etc. And walk is 1 through 8. So the tag numbers stay the same, the frame numbers, but we just get all of them instead of the current tag. And again, we can combine this with use absolute frame numbers, and this will export all of the current tag or all tags with the frame numbers, the absolute frame numbers here in mind. So for instance, if we do current tag only with absolute frame numbers, we should get walk 9 through 16. Yep, there we are, walk 9 through 16. And then of course we have the second slice 9 through 16 as well. And you'll notice that we have the same format here, sprite, slice, tag, and then the timeline frame number. So this will be 9 through 16 in this case. Okay, so our next option here with PNGs is the export as separate layers. So this one, you got to be a little bit careful with this. If you have a lot of layers and a lot of frames, because it can lock up Aseprite a little bit and take some extra time. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a different example for this one that has slightly less layers, so we can work through that a little quicker. So SnowDrama had sent me this file recently. He wanted to have each one of these house layouts be exported. You can see that they are already pre-sliced. So we have the 3 slices, house 1, house 2, and house 3. And if we go ahead and check the as separate layers, we're going to get these 3 slices and then per layer. So we're going to get walls and we're also going to get floor. So I'll go ahead and run that and you'll see that we get an output like so. So we have the sprite name, the slice name, the layer, and then the frame number. And this by default will be the tag frame number. So if there are tags, it will use that number instead of the single number. And actually, for instance, let me just add some more frames in here. And I've gone ahead and added a couple of tags here just so that we have a little bit of stuff to work with here. So you just can see how the tags work. So if we use separate layers and the current frame that we have selected has a tag over the top, we'll get an output like so. Notice that we have each layer separate. So we've got the floors for the first slice, the second slice, and the third slice. So house 1, 2, and 3. And then we have each tag. So we have 2 different tags here, tag name and another tag. So we have another tag, tag name, because those have, this has 1 frame in it and this one has 2 frames in it. So we get each of those frames as an output. So we get the sprite name, the slice name, the layer name, the tag name, and then the tag frame number. So in this case, we have 1 and 2. Or rather, we have 1. We have 1 in other tag, and tag name has 2. So we have 1 frame and a second frame. Now, if we were to select a frame that didn't have a tag, this will go ahead and export all of them. And then you see we have 5 frames here. So that's why we have 5 different frames here for each of the different slices. So each slice has 5 different frames, and it's also split up between the floor and the walls. So this will output with sprite, slice, layer, and then the frame number. If there are no tags, it'll use the timeline frame number. And if there are tags, you'll notice that we do get a tag in here. So we have sprite, slice, layer, tag, and then we have the local tag number. Now, if we don't want the local tag number, again, we can go ahead and select use absolute frame number, and that will go ahead and give us frames 1 through 5, and also will give us the tags as well. I'm just going to sort this by name. There we go. So now you can see that we have, might be easier to see the list. So the output on this is sprite, slice, layer, and then the frame. But if there is a tag, it'll go ahead and use the sprite, slice, layer, tag, and then the absolute frame number. Okay, so that's going to do it for PNG. Let's go ahead and undo these and uncheck those. And we'll go ahead and move into the sprite sheet exporting. So we'll go back to Lesma's stream avatar character here. And by default, if no options are selected when exporting a sprite sheet, it's going to look something like this. So you'll notice that we have the sprite name, the slice name, dash sprite sheet for each of the 2 slices. Also, you'll notice that each of the tags in their own horizontal row for both slices. It's worth noting that single frame and absolute frame numbers will not do anything with the sprite sheet exports. So we'll skip over those. If they are checked, it actually won't change anything at all. They just get skipped over anyways. If only current tag is selected, and we have a tag above our current frame, only this tag will be exported. So you see that we get both slices, only the 1 tag for walk. So we have all frames of walk in here, and it's going to be using the file format sprite slice tag dash sprite sheet for both slices. Now, if there's not a tag over the top of the frame, let's say if we select this frame here and I export this, this will go ahead and export all frames in a single horizontal strip. This does include blank frames, so be wary of that. But if you ever need your slices in a single horizontal strip, by selecting a frame that doesn't have a tag is one way to do it. Okay, so with the separate layers, let's go ahead and close this one. I'm going to jump back to Snow's house example for separate layers, and we'll show that for the sprite sheet. So with separate layers selected, if the current frame has a tag over top of it, it will export both tags and skip any of these empty ones here. So if this doesn't have a tag over the top, it's going to go ahead and skip that. So we'll see something like this. So you see that we got tag name, which is our first tag, and then we have the other tag, which is the second tag. So we have both of those tags stacked together inside of a sprite sheet. And then we have each one of the layers that are separated out. So we have the walls and the floor as two separate sprite sheets. We also have that for each one of the slices. There's 3 slices in this case. So the file export on that is going to be sprite slice layer dash sprite sheet. If we select a frame that doesn't have a tag above it, all frames will be exported in a single horizontal strip, like so. So you see we have all 5 frames for each one of the layers and each one of the slices. Again, the format on this one is going to be sprite slice layer spritesheet.png. If both current tag and split layers are selected, the rules from before also apply. If the current frame has a tag, like this one here, all frames from the tag will be exported for each layer, like so. So you see we only get the single tag on this. Again, that's if you have a tag above the currently selected frame. If there's not a frame above the currently selected frame, we'll get an output that looks like this. You see that we get the one single horizontal strip of all frames. So very similar to as if we didn't even check the current tag. Okay, so that should cover all of the Spritesheet options here. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to the Gifs. We'll just uncheck these. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to open up Lesma's file again here. And just because it's a really good example. Thanks again, Lesma, for sharing this with me. So by default, if no options are selected when using the GIF export, all frames will be exported and the output file will look like so. So we have one GIF for each slice that is selected. And if we open this up, you'll notice that we get all the frames from all the tags, including the blank frames. So currently it includes the blank frames. So if you're looking to not have the blank frames in here, you will have to remove them before exporting. I am looking for a workaround for that, but it's a little bit tricky. So hopefully in a coming update, I can put something together that will automatically remove the empty frames before exporting. So if current tag is selected, and we have a tag above our current frame. Let's say if we go back to walk and we export this. So we get 2 GIF files again because we have 2 different slices and we didn't select any of them. So all of them are exported. And you'll notice that we only have the walk animation in this GIF. So it only did the one tag for this one. And you see that it's sprite slice and then the tag.gif. In the case that you select a frame that does not have a tag above it, this is just like the default, and it will export all of them instead. So we get single GIFs, but you'll notice that we have all frames of the animation. So just make sure that there is a tag above the current frame, and that'll help if you're trying to target a specific tag. So with separate tags, as long as there's a tag above the current frame that's selected, each one of the tags will be exported as an individual GIF. So like this. So you see we have a GIF for each one of the tags for each one of the slices. So we've got idle, jump, sit, walk, and then we also have idle, jump, sit, walk. So each one of the tags gets exported, and this will include just that single tag. So we have the idle animation here. That's just playing the idle over and over in the GIF, or for instance, the walk animation here. And you'll notice the output on this one is the sprite name, the slice name, and then the tag name .gif. Again, make sure that there is a tag above the current frame that you're selecting. Otherwise, this option will just be like the default. If I do this and I export the GIF, you'll notice that we get individual GIFs here, And these will just be like the default where it has all the frames. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing any of the split tags or current tags, you do have to have a tag above the current frame in order for it to work correctly. Okay, so switching back to Snow's example here to show the layers, the separate layers with Gifs, I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer just so we have some animation on here. Go ahead and just add some simple numbers here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there we go. So we've got some numbers on the different frames there. So if we toggle on separate layers and we go ahead and export as a GIF, for each slice and for each layer, we're going to get a different GIF with all of the animations in it. So let me go ahead and open that up so you can see what it looks like. So for instance, here on the layer that I put the numbers on, if I open this up, you'll see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These ones aren't going to move because there's nothing that moves on them, but this would also be all 5 frames as well. So each of the layers, all 5 frames, 3 different GIFs and 3 different slices. So 1 for each layer per slice. And then the output on that one is going to be sprite slice layer.gif. So if we combine this with the current tag, again, make sure that there is a tag over the top. So if I select this frame, we have a tag, and I'll do current tag. This will go ahead and give us a separate GIF for each of the layers, for each of the slices, using only this one tag. So we'll just get 2, 3. I'll go ahead and export that now. And again, I'll open up the one with the numbers so you can see that it is just 2, 3. So notice that we have per slice, we have 3 different exports, 1 for each of the layers. And again, the frames that are included in each of these animations is the current tag because we've selected only current tag. And we've done that for all 3 slices. And the output for this is going to be sprite slice layer tag.gif. If there's not a tag above it, it will just skip over the current tag. So we'll just get all 5 frames in the animation like default, but separate layers. So you see we have 1 through 5 here. And this one outputs as sprite slice layer.gif. So we can also combine separate layers and separate tags as well. So again, if we have a tag over top, it's going to do the 2 different tags. So we'll get 1, 2, 3. We'll get 3 GIFs for each of the slices, and each of those animations or those GIFs will have these 2 frames, and then another animation will have the single frame with this tag here. And I guess for simplicity, let's make this so they're both 2 frames. There we go. So now I'll export this so you can see the output. So for each slice, we've exported 2 different tags, 3 layers each. So you see that we have 2 GIFs per layer per slice, because each one of these has its own slice here. And then again, the frames. So the frames will be whatever the frames are inside the tag. We should have a one that has 2, 3, and the other has 4, 5. So we've got the 4, 5 one here, got the 2, 3 one here. So, you know, this is a little confusing as well. So I think a lot of this is like you may just need to tinker around with the exports and try and see how things work. Hopefully I'm explaining it well, but I know there's a lot of different possibilities here. So just keep that in mind while you're using this. You may need to do it a couple times just to see what the output is. And then of course you can come back and look at the video and hopefully that clears things up. So the output on this one will also be sprite slice layer and then tag.gif. Again, stressing the fact that there is no tag above the current frame that you have selected. Separate tags will not even be considered. So this will just export all 5 frames instead of separating the tags like they are here. So just keep in mind that there does need to be a tag when you are doing any of the tag functions. Okay, so that should wrap up exporting with GIFs. Remember, all of these export functions can be combined, and we can select slices that we want to export. So if we use the selection tool here, we can select this, and this will only be this one slice, or maybe this slice, or this slice, or maybe these 2. So we can make a selection like that, and then we can export. You can also select these with the slice tool. So you can click on these, or you can click and drag, which also selects them. It is quite worth noting, if you've not used slices before, the slice tool is right behind the move tool. And if you click on a slice, you can edit the details in here as well after the fact. So you can rename your slice here. Okay, so moving on to the next section, we have duplicate and shift. Again, you can select the number 5 here, or you can do the drop down. And the way the duplicate and shift works is we're able to make a selection, and then this selection here, we can duplicate it and shift it. So for instance, if I wanted to go up with this, it duplicates the selection upwards. Likewise, if we want to go up and then left and then down, you see that we can just keep on repeating these. So you can go in any of the 8 different directions here, up, down, left, right, and then any of the diagonals as well. It's important to note that the offset percent here from the top left is also in play. So if we want to only go 50% in the X, let's say, you'll see that when I go left, it only shifts over half of the width of the selection. Likewise, if I did a low number on the Y and we go down, you'll see that we get the selection only moving slight. This option down here, follow duplicate, this is going to be used when if you're going to be trying to go off screen. Essentially what happens is if you try and shift this and it goes off screen, you'll notice that it acts kind of weird and it doesn't continue to keep going. So I've included an option here called follow duplicate, which will automatically recenter the view. So if we hit up, you see that we are following the duplicate. So we never run into the edge of the view, which means that we'll always have the sprite on screen and it's always able to duplicate it. Another option here is the very middle, we have fill. So if I select this and then we do a fill, this will go ahead and fill the entire canvas with that selection. It does keep in mind the bounds. You see there's a bit of a gap there. If I was a little bit tighter on that, let's say if I shrink wrapped it and then we did a fill, you see that it's much tighter and there's not as much gap there. Another thing to keep in mind too is also when you are shifting this, it will grab any pixels within the selection. For instance, if I move this to the right, we'll now get the pixels that are in this selection. So each time you press this, so if I do this and then this, you'll see that we get the selection again. And this could be something that you want if you want to maybe stack some sprites together. Maybe that's something you want to do. So if I do this and maybe we bring this down a little bit and then I can kind of do like something like this. You can do like a stacking thing. If that's not what you want, I would just make a new layer and then we can go ahead and copy the pattern that we want to duplicate. So I'll go ahead and copy this and I'll paste it up here onto the new layer. We just have the orange blob here. So now if I go ahead and I duplicate this around, we're not going to run into the others. We do run into ourselves though, so keep that in mind. If you are using the percents here, you will run into yourself a little bit, but with 100% defaults, this is what we get here, so we don't actually end up running into ourselves at all. So yeah, it's an interesting little feature, and I thought it was kind of cool. Okay, so on to the next tab here, we have duplicate and rotate. So this is tab number 6, and with this one, you're able to make a selection and then duplicate it and rotate it. So if I was to grab these, the color blobs here and hit the CCW, which stands for counterclockwise, this will go ahead and make a copy of that selection, but rotate it 90 degrees. So you see that we're rotated 90 degrees here. Likewise, if I was to grab that same selection and rotate it clockwise, we get another selection like this, which has been rotated 90 degrees clockwise, which is negative 90 degrees. And really it's as simple as that for duplicate and rotate. There's not too much going on there. It's just kind of a nice little feature to be able to quickly grab a rotated copy of the selection. So let's move on to the next one. So tab number 7 is expand canvas. So for this one, I actually want to get like a sprite sheet or something. That might actually be best. Okay, so I brought back up these characters from ClockworkRaven to show off this next feature. So expand canvas. So what this will do is this will expand the canvas in any of the 4 directions, up, down, left, or right, or any of the diagonals by your selection. So for instance, if I was to select one of these grid cells here and expand to the right, you see that we get 1 extra grid cell. Likewise, if I was to go up, you see that we also get a row here. And we can do this multiple times to get more rows. We can also do this in 2 directions, like upright, and this will do the upright there. And we can also do it in all directions using this middle button here. Now remember, this is based on selection. If I was to make a selection like this and then do down, this is going to expand down this height here. And again, right would just be a single because the width of the selection. This doesn't need to be on the grid. You can select anything and do that. And this will give you a new selection. So that can be kind of handy. And yeah, that's how Expand Canvas works. Okay, so let's move on to tab 8, which is quick outline options. So let's go back to our ingredients here, and I can show you this to you real quick. So I'm just going to separate these a little bit, just so I can select it a little easier. So what we'll do here, let me turn off the grid too. So with quick outline, quick inline, and quick shadow, these are all based on your selection. So all of these can have a thickness set. So we can use this slider here, the thickness, before we apply the outline, inline, or the shadow. And then also we need to select a color. So for instance, if I was to select this this color here and select the orange blob, I do outline, this will put a 1 pixel outline around the selection there. So the thickness is 1, we've used the color, and here's outline. Now we can do this multiple times as well. So I can continue to press this, but using the thickness, we can do it all in one step, like that, or like that. With quick inline, it's very similar, except it'll place the line on the inside of the sprite instead of the outside. This is very useful if you want to squeeze in an outline but don't have room. So inline is very similar. We'll go ahead and we'll make the selection, and then I'll press inline, and you'll see that it made the inline or the outline on the inside of the object. If I undo that and redo it, you see that it doesn't add any thickness to the outside. Here's the outline, here's the inline. And actually, just to show this, we can do multiple colors here. So I'll do the inline first. There's the dark color. And then if we do the outline, we can do that. So you see the outline is the outline and the inline is the inline. So with inline, you can also use the mask color. So if I select this this orange here, and we go ahead and select the mask with Alt clicking, or you can select this here, the mask. If we go ahead and do that, and I click inline, you see that it reduces the sprite. If I undo this and I redo this, you can see that we get a reduction there. This can be quite handy if you are trying to separate a sprite and you want to clean up the edge. You can just go ahead and use the inline with a mask, and that'll kind of just like crop it down and clean that up a little bit. So we'll move on to shadow now. So likewise, we can also use the same function here. This is a shadow, and this will put a downright shadow onto our object here. So I can select a color, and I can select a thickness, and I can hit shadow. So you can see I can do this multiple times, or I can use the thickness slider to set it to a different thickness each time I click. We can also do this to layer in different shadows if we want to. Let's say if we want to have a dark shadow, and then for some reason we want to just do some more orange, and we want to do some more of this, you could do that as well. All right, so let's move on to the next tab here, tab number 9. And this is the Shift HSV Options. So this is used to shift color palettes. And I actually have a really good example for this. So if we go to the plant sprite sheet, this is a sprite sheet from Tiny Justice when we worked on the Tamagotchi game together. Let's say that we want to shift the color of our little plant here. Maybe we want to make it purple or blue or a different color, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just check and see where this is on the palette. So it looks like it's these 3 colors here in that outline. So I'm going to select these guys, and then what we can do is just simply click on the shift hue button. So you see that we can shift this hue around, and there's a nice blue there. We can also do this with the saturation. So maybe we want it a little less saturated, and maybe we want to punch the value a little bit. There we go. Something like that. So you see that it changed any of those palette colors on the current document here, which is quite handy. So each of these buttons does a set amount. So if I go ahead and select these again, you'll notice down here that it shifts the same amount every time. So this is minus 50. This is minus 10. This is plus 10. And then this is plus 50. And that applies on all of the hue, the saturation, and the value shifting. So all of these have the same. Now, let's say if we wanted to keep this kind of like shading that we have here, but we want to add another color in our color palette with the same shading. So what we can do is let me undo this, and then what we'll do is we'll create a copy of the colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bit of room on our palette, and then I'm going to select these, I'm going to copy them, and then I'm going to just paste them down here. So now we have a copy of these palette colors. So without affecting these ones, the originals, we can now modify these. So now I can make a hue shift, and we can get that blue back. There we go. A little bit less saturated, and I think we punched up the value. So now we have our original colors here, and then we have the same shading and like differences in the color and whatnot, but as a different color. So that's quite handy. Okay, so moving on to our last section here, it's tab number 10. And this is the miscellaneous options. So the first option we have here is the center preview on selection. So let me go ahead and open the preview, and you see we have the preview here. What this does is it'll center the preview on the center of your current selection. So for instance, if I was to make a selection like this, you see that the middle of our selection is right here. And if I click on this, you'll see that we get the selection centered up over here in the preview window. So if I was to make a selection here with the capybara, you'll see that this centers up on the center of the selection. Same thing here. If we go up to this plant here, so we're going to be slightly off, and there we are. Now, something to note here is it will keep your zoom level. So if I zoom the preview in and we go ahead and we do something like this, if I center that wasn't a very good selection. If I center this, you'll see that we're right there in the center of where the cactus is. So this will keep your zoom unless you're zoomed out. If you're zoomed out, it'll actually zoom in by default. So this will zoom in to 2x or 200%. And that's how center preview works. So the next one here I have is palette to pixels, and this one will take all of your palette colors and it'll paint them onto the canvas. So if we go ahead and do that, we'll make a selection. So if I do like this, and then we can do palette to pixels, and this will go ahead and paint all of our palette colors onto the canvas. Now we could of course resize this if we would like, make this a little bit bigger or smaller, well, mostly bigger actually. And then it also depends on your selection as well. So if I wanted a more like this, we can do that. And this will give us a different look there. And where this kind of comes in handy is if you wanted to include your palette maybe somewhere on your sprite. Let's say you wanted to put this palette here, you know, maybe up here in the top left corner of your sprite. So that way, when you go to use this later on, maybe you have access to the palette. So that's what that's kind of useful for. Again, it does it tries to fit within your selection. So if I make a smaller selection, it'll only do the first like few colors. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, that's kind of how palette to pixels works. Okay, so on to our last feature here. This is sort of a combo one. So we've got copy pixels as text and copy pixels as text with colors. So right up front, before I read the comment section, this does not convert your pixels into a font. Sadly, it's way more complicated than that, but I am working on something. So, you know, get excited for that maybe. But what copy pixels as text does is it will give you a table or like an array of all of your pixels in your selection that have data or that are filled in. So for instance, if we come down here to this sunflower, and if I go ahead and select a section of this and we do copy pixels as text, you'll see down bottom copy filled pixels as text table to clipboard. So now if I open up a some sort of text editor, we can paste this. So you see that we have all of the XY coordinates of pixels that are filled in. We also have the bounds up here. So the width, the height, the X and the Y. But more importantly, we have the X and Y. So this gives you the locations of all of the pixels that are filled in. Now, this might not be super useful for most of you, but this was actually something that I used when I created the isometric patterns. So that uses this sort of pattern system that I've made. And I thought this might actually be useful if maybe your game engine or if something that you're working on, you need to just grab a bunch of, pixel data. So it just spits it out as a nice, simple set of tables, basically, and spits it into a document from your clipboard. And this could be useful like if you're working on patterns, or if you just need to be able to hard code some sort of pixels. So, and again, I used it with the isometric patterns to make it so that we could repeat those patterns over and over again consistently. And then, so down here, copy pixels as text with colors. So this one is going to actually give us the color information as well. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and then we'll paste this into our document, and you'll see that we have all of the colors here, and we also have all of the X, Y coordinates of any pixels that are filled in and which color that they used. So we've got the R, the G, the B, and the A up here, and then we have a lot of pixels. So yeah, it makes a pretty big table, but you can access this pretty easy. So this is a sort of JSON format, or maybe it's not JSON format, it's more of a table. But for instance, we could access this with color indexes dot C1, for instance, and that will give us this color here, stuff like that. Again, I wasn't going to include this in the Carbs toolbar, but I thought, you know what, maybe somebody might find this useful and could use it. So yeah, I mean, we could probably do some compression stuff here too, where it's like repeat colors and things like that. But it's just a very basic form of getting a pattern into a text format that you can use in code. So very handy. For me anyways. But yeah. All right, so a couple last little things that I'm going to mention. As with all of my tools up to this point, I believe, I've included this info section. So with this is kind of like quick reference for each one of the tabs of options. So you can go through here, and if there's any of these functions that you don't remember how they work, you can kind of use this as a quick reference on how each of the buttons work or what the functions are, and whatnot. There's also some extra links up here, so there'll be a link to this YouTube video, so if you ever need to come back to it, that's what this button here will do. You can also get to the itch.io page if you would like to look up something on the page, or maybe share the tool with some others. That's an easy way just to get back to the tool page really quickly. And then of course there is the feature requests and bug reports. So if you guys do find anything, absolutely let me know, or maybe if there's a new feature that you think might be really cool, I can see what I can do, and just kind of put in a little feature request or a bug report, and yeah, that just makes it so it shows up on my radar and it's a little easier to track for me. Yeah, so another feature that I always include in my tools as well is this minimize button. So this little toggle here will make it so that the tool will kind of pop up out of the way. So if you'd like to just leave the tool open, you can do that, and just kind of minimize it, so it's there ready to go when you need it. As I mentioned before, all of the Carbs toolbar functions now run without the toolbar being open, as long as you set the tooltip or the keyboard shortcut. So we can just look for Carbs toolbar, and you have all of the different hotkeys here as well. So just keep that in mind. So you don't actually need to minimize the tool, but you can if you want to keep it up. And yeah, all right, I think that's going to do it for today. You can check out Carbs toolbar and all of my other projects over on itch.io. Oh, jeez. Thank you so much for watching. I know this video is a long one, but I wanted to make sure I covered everything in the tool. Shoutouts to those who've been going above and beyond lately. The extra support is how I'm able to keep making these tools and providing videos with each release. Thank you to everyone that's been checking out my tools over all these years and spreading the word of them. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do it on this level. So yeah, thank you guys so much. And of course, thank you to all the Aseprite devs for allowing us to add on to their already amazing program. This is like the pixel art software. So yeah, it's really cool that we can make it even more, So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Much love to everyone, and happy pixeling out there.